The difference 24-hour makes. Hey, John Kiriakou, how are you?
Than I have felt in almost 2 weeks.
Stateside.
Even
tarantula free.
Tarantula free. I slept with no mosquito netting. It was pretty great.
Gotta love it. Texas might not be my favorite state, but it certainly sounds better than the state you were in before.
Man, and I got to go back for another 10 days of filming. Oh my God.
Oh, really?
And I want to tell you too, yesterday we left there's not even a village, it's just us. We're the only structure that you can see. So the hurricane came through the night before and just walloped us. And so we get in the Suburban, and Ted, we didn't go 100 feet and the road was just didn't exist anymore. It was just gone. Yeah. And there was this big ditch. So
how did you get to the airport?
Well, the star of the movie, Jeff Fahey, and we got out of the car and we took rocks. We got big rocks to put enough rocks together that we could, at least at speed, try to jump over this thing with this 25-year-old Suburban. We actually made it. It's 30 miles on a dirt road, and the road just didn't exist anymore.
That's Afghan style with the rocks.
He is very generous with he supports an orphanage in Afghanistan, and he said the roads in Afghanistan are way better than this. And I said,
now they are. Yeah.
Well, they are.
That's the main thing that the United States contributed. I mean, before, when I went to Afghanistan, before the NATO started building roads, they were always, the Afghans were always saying, man, we need better roads. That's the one thing I feel like as an American we did provide, although we didn't provide them with high quality roads, but because they buckled. There was a lot of corruption. There's a lot of different qualities of road work, and we kind of gave them the shit version, and they kind of needed the good version because it's, there's probably no place on earth with a higher variation in average temperature between winter and summer than Afghanistan.
I would agree with that.
I mean, so it's like that's it's like the opposite of say La Jolla, where there's like a 15-degree range, and there's no cracks in the sidewalk because everything's kind of perfect, even if it was poured 100 years ago. So, John, there's some news. Should we get to it? Let me go through what we're going to talk about. Obviously, Gaza.
Yeah, but give us the good, the bad, and the ugly for everybody to hear.
All right. So the good. Well, you may about Gaza or about all of it.
About everything.
Okay, here we go. So here comes we've got a piece. We've got a makings of a ceasefire / peace deal in Gaza. Improbably, but hey, happily, I think. The polling is back on Trump's deportation surge. Very interesting. Basically, people want illegals deported, but they don't like how Trump is doing it. Tom, this might be one of the most disgusting stories I've ever heard in my life. Tom Homan, who accepted that $50,000 bribe in a sting operation, is being allowed to keep the money. I've never heard of such a thing. I assume you have thoughts. Nick Sorter, what a grifter. He got arrested in Portland. He's saying that the cops are being are basically the pawns of Antifa.
Infiltrated. Yeah, they're infiltrated by Antifa. Antifa has taken over the Portland Police Department, and that's the only reason why he was arrested.
It's like, dude, you should be blamed. No, the Portland Police Department was beating up protesters, and you got swept up alongside them. This should have tipped you over to the protesters' side. Okay,
that's right.
And then, interestingly, the Department of Defense, and this is disturbing. This is like Stalinist, has opened over 300 investigations into its personnel for the crime of insulting Charlie Kirk, potentially. 300 investigations. The DOD has nothing better to do. And finally, Charlie Kirk is apparently going to have, there's literally a bigger push to put up statues of Charlie Kirk all over the country than there has been of any other fallen American since Abraham Lincoln. So, let's just stipulate that Charlie Kirk was, let's just stipulate he was a good guy, but was he Abe Lincoln? I don't know.
I'm a member of this men's group called the HEPA, the American Hellenic Educational Progressive Association. And every year on Memorial Day, and this is one of many, many things we do. Mostly we raise money for scholarships and for medical research. But every year on Memorial Day, the whole gang of us, it's like 100 of us, will meet at Arlington Cemetery, and we put wreaths on the graves of every Greek American veteran that's buried at Arlington. Well, several of those Greek American veterans are Medal of Honor recipients, and one of them is the recipient of 2 Congressional Medals of Honor.
Wow.
There are no statues for those guys.
Right.
But Charlie friggin' Kirk is going to have statues all over America.
It's insane. I mean, it's definitely a fever dream. If I may, I think we should get straight into Gaza. What do you think?
Yeah, agreed. We have pieces at hand, right? Isn't that
pieces at hand? It looks like. Look, God bless President Trump. Good for him.
Yes.
I mean, so I always like to give credit where it's due, and it's due here. John, it's exactly like you said yesterday. The strike against Qatar was a bridge too far for Trump. It angered him beyond belief. Behind the scenes, basically, Bibi was dead to him at that point, and he decided, like, I'm not saying he's like on Team Palestine, but he wants this war over, and he knows that Bibi is responsible for it. And it may or may not be about a Nobel Peace Prize, but it's certainly he wants this over. He wanted it over. Now he's just seeing that Bibi was the instigator, and basically this thing has to come to an end. So the current deal, it's really, this is. I put this in the thumbnail this morning. Israel humiliated. I think it has been. Let's imagine where we were 2 weeks ago, where it looked like Bibi was like smugly thinking that all 20 points of Trump's plan were all basically what Israel wanted. We interpreted it that way. The whole world did. Now, the very first step, right? Israel has to withdraw completely. That's the very first step before any hostages get released. Then the next step in this plan, and Israel has agreed to this. Let's just say this: Bibi has agreed to it. He has to go to his cabinet, and we'll see if his very fragile coalition holds together. I'm very curious to talk to you about that. Then the second step is hostages get released. They call it 58 hostages, 20, including 20 living ones. Let's call it what it is. It's 20 people are going to be released, and 38 bodies. The Palestinians get back hundreds, if not thousands, of their hostages being held by the Israelis. Then
let me interrupt you for 1 second. Let me interrupt you for 1 second. The way this has played out over the years has been that there are 100 or 500 or 1,000 Palestinians for every one Israeli. Yeah. It's not going to be that big of a difference.
Not as lopsided.
But there have been a couple of hints that the Palestinians may be willing to scuttle this whole deal if a certain medical doctor who's being held in an Israeli prison isn't released. And then all of a sudden, that disappeared from the media. What are your thoughts about that?
I think that the Palestinians know that basically they're in the catbird seat now, and I think this is more about they feel like they can exert some pressure. They know they've won. The Israelis can try to spin it any way they want. It's interesting because truly the Israelis have defined Pyrrhic victory. You've killed a lot of people, you flattened a lot of territory, and you fucked up in doing it. It's kind of fascinating for students of history.
Yeah. I'm going to add one other thing, if you don't mind.
Please.
Yesterday, a publication that I never heard of called the Middle East Monitor did an article about me, and it quoted the political advisor to the Israeli foreign minister. He said that I am an enemy of Israel, that I am an enemy of the Jewish people. He called me a virulent anti-Semite, which, not only is that just ridiculous, nobody's ever called me anything like that before in my life. A virulent anti-Semite.
Well, if you criticize Israel, by definition, you're an anti-Semite.
And that's it. And that I am an example of the intellectual rot that has taken place, his words, taken place on the American left. Well, like I say, I never heard of this publication before. It appears to be somehow tied, and I don't mean just support-wise. I mean, it's like formally tied to the Israeli government. But I think that the Israelis are very upset with this deal. They were upset with negotiations for this deal. They were upset that Americans have turned against them. There was a poll on CNN. I was just watching it 15 minutes ago, saying that at the start of this thing 2 years ago, Americans supported Israel by 46 percentage points over the Palestinians. Today, that number is they support the Palestinians by 1 percentage point over the Israelis. And I'm wondering if the Israelis are going to take this slap that is the ceasefire, and they're going to begin taking it out on individual Americans.
Taking it out on individual Americans. How?
By threatening people like you and me, by having Google demonetize this show, which apparently has been done now, and by going after individuals who do not toe the Zionist line on Palestine.
Well, so I don't want to give the Mossad any ideas, but I think that would be actually a pretty smart tactic on their part, because their entire existence and their ability to thrive depends entirely on American support, which they have completely lost, right? I mean, the majority of American Jews, which is the biggest population of Jews outside of Israel in the world, now opposes the Israeli government. I mean, that blows my mind. Okay,
that's right.
So the point is, they've lost America, and they know, and it would not be a stupid move to target some of the more effective, articulate voices who've been criticizing not Israel as an idea or as a state, or maybe in some cases, but specifically the way that they act, their strategies and their tactics and their apartheid and their abuse of the Palestinian people, right? So if they can, maybe the whole idea is like, well, we've got to get these certain Americans to shut up. And then, maybe Americans will forget what we've done. I don't think it would work, but, honestly, I don't really blame them for trying. And we should probably bring in Robbie to talk about what's happened here to the show. Yeah. Robbie, I'm going to pop you in here. Robbie, thanks for coming on. So just a little housekeeping, just obviously follow, and share the show and all that. We're still on Rumble. Everything is great over there. But YouTube, we're having some problems with.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like what you just said at the top. 24 hours can bring a whole world of change. So before YouTube had demonetized the channel in the middle of September, they said because of a paperwork error. So we've got the paperwork error resolved. An hour after the paperwork error was resolved, YouTube has then slapped us with a community strike about an episode that Ted and John did, I think it was last week, talk about how Hamas has won the war, which I hate to tell you this, they did. So YouTube has now demonetized the channel. So for those of y'all who are think about this, YouTube, the progressive platform, the champion of all things free speech and of the diversity, is going after two people with a different opinion than the approved opinion that Google has. Meanwhile, Rumble, the right-wing echo chamber, is financially supporting John and Ted and allowing them to speak freely. Think about that for a second. So what my appeal to you is, if you want this show to continue, because John and Ted, they got bills they got to pay, please watch us on Rumble. Yeah. Rumble is paying them. Rumble is not throttling them. The show is growing. Let me see. Last time I looked, just 1 second, y'all. We're going to do some live action stuff right here. $20 donation from you, from Yusung Pat over on Rumble. Thank you.
Thank you.
Because you can't do anything on YouTube. You can't donate. There's no ads. They have completely demonetized the channel. As of right now, we have 854 channel followers and 29 paid subscribers. So thank you to each and every one of you.
By the way, also, we do have for people who want to donate.
We also have PayPal.
There's PayPal. Here's the PayPal address: deprogrampodcast at Gmail. A little bit of housekeeping here. Thank you so much to Grim Music Services and Wesley Jarasunas and Killian Welts have all been generous donors via the PayPal. And we really appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
And I mean, that's really all I've got to say is, this is not new for YouTube. YouTube killed RT. YouTube killed RT America. YouTube has deplatformed John. I think this is the third time they've demonetized you, and they've
a lot of conservative voices, a lot of left voices. Anyone with a strong opinion tends to get ousted from YouTube.
And I think here's what's happened, and I'm going to go away because we have a lot of stuff we have to cover. I think the reason for the crackdown, the newest polls show that young Americans, especially young conservative right-wing Republicans, if you want to call it that, just the Gen Z types, have turned against Israel with a vengeance.
Yeah.
That is why they're doing this. Bibi Netanyahu, in his own words, made an appeal while he was in Washington, D.C., talking about how important the social media wars are and how the Zionist entity has to take control of social media. That's why they went after TikTok. That's what this is all about. This is about censorship. This is about throttling. This is about strangling people's ability to make a living. And if you support free speech, Rumble's the tip of the spear.
Thank you, Robbie. Much appreciated. And Robbie is 100% correct there. So I think that I think they're going after us for that. They're going to go after people like us. And I think, maybe that Qatar coin, by the way, that I found on my laundry the other day.
You know what? Ted, stranger things have happened, man.
Yeah.
Stranger things have happened.
By the way, a little housekeeping before I forget. So yesterday we had that angry LGBT person about the Supreme Court case. I want to just be clear here. I'm not going to apologize, but that person was correct. Okay. The article that I read in the New York Times was extremely confusing and convoluted about this case. The plaintiff is actually an anti-transition, anti-trans person who was being suppressed by a law that said that you're not allowed. So there's 20 states, including Colorado, that don't allow you to give advice to minors against transitioning, against gender affirming surgery and therapy and so on. So this plaintiff was a conservative, and the Supreme Court was, but the way it was written, it made it look exactly the opposite. So basically, the case is a free speech case saying, I have the right to tell kids who come to me that they shouldn't transition, don't trans. And so that's what that was. So I did misread that. I was mistaken. I said I would look into it. And if I was wrong, I would say I'm wrong. I'm wrong. So there.
Apologize, Ted.
Anyway, all right. With that, let's get. So, John, this is big news, though. Back to Gaza, right? I mean, so, Bibi Netanyahu lost everything. It was Qatar.
That's exactly what it was. There's one thing about Donald Trump. You can't make him look weak. If you make him look weak, you're going to pay a price. And bombing Qatar and then telling Trump, apparently at the last possible minute, so that there was nothing that he could do about it, that was too much. It was too much for Trump to take. And he slapped him down.
I don't blame him.
I don't either.
Not at all. No, I mean, and I don't blame the Qataris for being angry about it either. All right, so the question now does Netanyahu's government survive?
Well, you know what? I hate to say yes, but the only reason that I say yes is because there's literally no alternative except one that might be even further to the right.
Right. It's like, here's the thing, right? Bibi, is having this meeting, perhaps right now while we're talking in Tel Aviv, where he's going to be like, listen, guys, it's like, you guys can dream of greater Israel all you want, And we've already got 60% of the West Bank. We probably aren't going to have to give any, if not, or most of that back. But Gaza, we're never going to annex it. It's gone forever. We overreached. The whole world hates us. Get real. You think you can do this without me and send me to prison? Try. But you can't form a government without me. That's going to be his case.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll prevail or not. I have no idea. But I don't know if the right-wing parties can form a coalition. I don't know where they would find. I don't know where they would find the votes to form a government.
See, that's the other thing. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine last night who just happens to be Jewish, and I said,
even though you're an anti-Semite, does he know?
Right? Yeah. I secretly I must hate him or something.
Yeah.
So I said the problem that the Israeli government has is that it's the same problem that the Greek government used to have, where you've got 36 political parties, all of them get elected to parliament. You can't possibly form a government that is going to be strong enough to last its entire term. So what the Greeks did is they raised the threshold to enter parliament from 3% to 5%. That knocked out a bunch of these parties that were only based around one person anyway, one charismatic person. So 3% to 5%. And then they passed this law that changed everything. If you are the party that comes in first, you get an extra 50 seats.
Oh,
and 50 seats is always enough to form an actual government where you don't have to enter into any coalition with anybody else.
That's a smart system. Right now, I bet Emmanuel Macron wished that France had that system.
Seriously.
John, F. Huso, thanks for the donation, is asking, over and under how many days after Hamas releases all the hostages will Israel renegotiate and start genociding again? Look, that's a good question, because as the Hamas spokesperson said yesterday, Israel has a long history of not abiding by signed agreements and reneging on ceasefires and everything. That's going to be what they want to do. So this really boils down to, what does ADD Donald Trump, how long is his attention span on this? Is he going to keep an eye on Bibi or is he going to drift off and start ranting about Charlie Kirk statues or something?
Well, if he's serious, and we chuckle about it, but if he's serious about winning the Nobel Peace Prize, he is not going to let Bibi Netanyahu wreck that for him. Not a chance.
Well, the Simon Nobelsky says from Quebec, fuck Zionist Israel. Agree. F. Huso also says, thanks for another donation. Charlie Kirk is MAGA Jesus. That's exactly
what's going on. Yes, he is. We've got the commemorative coin now that's been proposed in the House of Representatives.
The Jace Show is questioning me. I know, that's hilarious, right? It's calling me out. I'm curious how the Gazans have won if Tony Blair is going to be running the place. It seems like ethnic cleansing is still on the table. Tony Blair is not going to be running the place. That's over. That's not true. And look, I think, John, what we're looking at here, and these are the early days, right? So everything I say should be taken with like a salt lick of salt. But I think what we're looking at is an Ireland solution here, where Hamas will basically remain in charge in the same way that the IRA basically demilitarized and became just Sinn Féin, right? I think that Hamas, they might be rebranded, they might rename themselves, but basically the same guys who are Hamas are going to be running the Gaza Strip for the foreseeable future. They may give up a number of their weapons. They may agree to put all of their weapons into an arsenal. They may agree to convert their soldiers into police officers. But I think basically that the facts on the ground can't change because they are the power structure that maintains law and order and have been for 15 years. I just don't see, I think it's a fantasy, this stuff about like Trump Gaza Hotel. And, there could be a Trump Gaza Hotel, but it's not like it's going to be, the Gaza Strip is going to be maintained by the United States and like this coalition and like with Tony Blair and that they're all going to grift. And I just don't I don't think so.
Yes, I agree. This, the thing here too, I know we're pressed for time. There are so many things to talk about, but I want to say real quickly, the Israelis, for this to not happen again, the Israelis need to learn a lesson, and the lesson is very simple. You do not slaughter innocent people. You do not deny people basic human rights. Martin Luther King famously
and gloat about it.
That's right. Martin Luther King famously said that we should never underestimate a man's desire to be free. And Gaza was the biggest open air prison in the world.
And look, let's be real here. I mean, the world never should have tolerated the way things were in Gaza before 2023. But afterwards, it just tipped into, it couldn't be ignored. So JRock 952, basically fuck you. But here's what he said: John's probably a Holocaust denier. I mean, he is a truther after all.
Fucking idiot. I'm neither a truther nor a Holocaust denier. Fucking idiot. And if he knew anything about me or watched anything that I've done, he would know that.
Yeah, I hate it when people just sort of say shit on the internet. It's just like,
yeah, like this retard who wrote the article about me in this publication. I can't even remember the name now. Middle East something. One of the comments was that I'm stupid, morbidly obese, and ugly too. On top of it, and that.
yeah, and your mommy's fat too. Any chance the Egyptians, Houdini wants to know, the Egyptians will be involved with Gaza internal security? It's a good question.
The Israelis over the years have asked the Egyptians to get more involved, which is ironic because Egypt used to administer Gaza.
That's correct.
Back in the day before the 67 war. The Egyptians want nothing to do with Gaza. It is nothing but trouble. They don't have enough food and jobs for their own people, and they don't want to take this on as well.
Yeah, I think they're content with just being neighbors here. I like this comment. Tammy Landrigan says, "This is why I, as a lifelong Democrat, realized we were better off with Trump after all was said and done." I totally see that argument. I mean, like, the best thing about Donald Trump is he doesn't seem to like stupid wars. And, he does a lot of things that I disagree with, like blowing up Venezuelan boats. But this is a great, if this goes through, if this works, who's going to be able to argue that we would have been better off under Kamala Harris? I mean, this is a major, major issue. I mean, I care about healthcare. I care about a lot of other stuff. But, I mean, the United States was actively participating in the mass murder of tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people, and contributing to the misery of untold more. If Donald Trump puts an end to this, great.
Yeah, great. This isn't about personalities, whether we hate Donald Trump or love Donald Trump. It's about bringing human rights to the Palestinians.
Precisely. Sean, should we move on to some of these other topics?
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about?
Oh, man, there's just too much today.
There's Tom Homan.
Yeah, let's talk about him. He gets to keep his money, which is like right out of bizarro world of U.S. jurisprudence. I don't freaking understand it at all.
He should have been fired. He's caught basically dead to rights, accepting a $50,000 bribe in an FBI sting operation. He pocketed the $50K, and literally, he's so fucking shameless that he instead of just turning it back over right away, my bad, thank you for not prosecuting me, thank you for not firing me, thank you. He's he's keeping it, and the government's letting him keep it. I mean, this is a whole new level of shamelessness. I think. I mean, I think it's depraved, honestly.
It is depraved, and another thing too is it just gives you such a clear example of the corruption of our justice system, where if they want to go after you and silence you, it's easy. If they want to give you the right to do anything your heart desires, that's easy too. There's a great book that's been out for many years. I've recommended it 100 times, called 3 Felonies a Day. And it's written by a Harvard law professor who argues that we are so over legislated and so over criminalized in this country that the average person on the average day going about his or her normal business commits 3 felonies every single day.
That's awesome.
So if they want
felonies,
they're going to get you. There's nothing you can do to protect.
Right? Isn't it Beria, who supposedly the NKVD guy from the Soviet Union, who supposedly said, "You show me the man, I'll show you the crime"?
That's exactly what he said. Yes.
By the way, we're number 11 on Rumble nationally. Just saying right now as we speak. So let's we've got an ad. You've probably noticed Rumble is growing fast and it's not slowing down. They're building a real alternative to big tech that puts creators first and actually protects free speech. And now there's Rumble Premium, an easy way to upgrade your experience. With Premium, you get ad-free viewing across the platform. No pre-rolls, no interruptions, just the content you came for. Plus, premium members unlock exclusive content like bonus videos, behind-the-scenes drops, and more from your favorite creators. Right now, Rumble is offering $10 off an annual subscription. Just go to rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO at checkout. That's rumble.com/premium. Promo code STUDIO. No ads, more freedom, and content you actually care about. That's the deal. Funny comment that I should about from F. Huzo. Thanks for another donation. You guys are actually Brigitte Macron penis deniers. I am a Brigitte Macron penis denier. I think that on the extremely unlikely event I ever got to see her bits, there would be no penis there. There would not be a crying game situation happening there.
I feel confident that's the case. I do not believe Brigitte Macron is a man. I believe she's a hideous woman. She was never beautiful.
No. But she's very put together. She's French. She's stylish, I got to talk about Nick Sort. Is it Sorter or Sortor? I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't know, to tell you the truth.
I don't know either. And to tell you the truth, I never really thought about this guy at all. I had seen him on Fox many times before. Yeah. He's a street reporter for Fox, right? They sent him there's been all these demonstrations outside of the Portland ICE office, which, by the way, mainly there's been more demonstrations because basically it's so hilarious. Not much was going on there at all. There were tiny little protests there from time to time. So the Trump administration sent the National Guard out there and basically to protect the ICE office. So that provoked actual protests to come out to say, because they were against the National Guard being in Portland.
Right.
And so there was a little bit of a fracas the other day. And so Nick got roughed up and arrested by the Portland PD, despite having press credentials. This kind of thing happens from time to time to reporters when they're on the street covering protests. Why does it happen? Because cops don't give a shit if you're a reporter. When cops go into an arrest frenzy for demonstrators, they sweep everyone else, and they don't really like reporters anyway. And so even though they see the press badge, they just don't care. That's what happened to Nick. Nick, you should, tell the truth and become a good leftist like me. But instead, he's going out spinning this, saying that the Portland PD has become corrupt puppets of violent Antifa thugs, and he was arrested because of, somehow they were doing the bidding of Antifa even while they were arresting supposed Antifa. This is embarrassing.
Listen, as a regular on Fox News, I'm going to tell you that every show on that network is going to run with this.
It's really though, it has it's negative credibility, right? It's that line that I always like to use from my lawyer. Not only is that not true, it can't be true. It's ridiculous.
The radical left pro-Antifa police department of Portland, Oregon, committed crimes against humanity when they arrested our colleague. It writes itself.
It's like, basically, Nick, they treated you like you were a reporter for a Jacobin. Okay, that's what happened. Basically, they didn't care that you were from Fox. You didn't get a papal dispensation. You were, they were thugs to you because you were a journalist. I mean, it's so. I mean, honestly, I don't even get why they're going. Why he and they are going with this. I would have just been like, no, we just won't talk about that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because it goes against our narrative. Why not just shut up?
Why not just shut up? Yes.
Okay. So while we're at this, all right. So listen, we got to. I guess Charlie Kirk's never made more news than since getting killed, and Charlie Kirk. So right now, the Department of Defense, which is supposed to be protecting us and our national security interests around the globe, is spending God knows how many resources, launching 300 internal investigations into employees, in other words, soldiers, airmen, sailors, God knows who else, because the Pentagon is the biggest employer on earth, looking for people who said mean stuff about Charlie Kirk on the internet. Setting aside the fact that probably some of those people will be found not guilty. What the fuck is going on, John? I mean, does this make any sense to you at all? I mean,
no,
what is this? It's a loyalty test?
It is. It's some kind of a crazy, misguided loyalty test. When I woke up this morning, I popped on the news like I do every morning. I just flip through the channels, and I happened to stumble on a response to a question that Donald Trump was giving yesterday, where he said that he had decided to re-ban flag burning. He said the courts have never been clear on this, which is 1,000% not true.
Except for the United States
W. Bush administration. The Supreme Court ruled unequivocally that flag burning is a protected political statement. It's protected by the First Amendment of the Constitution. And he said that he is going to re-ban flag burning because flag burning leads to horrific violence, which is what the radical left wants to do, and blah, blah, blah. This Charlie Kirk thing is in the exact same vein. We're being told now what we can believe and what we can't believe, what we can do and what we can't do. It's dangerous, even if it's temporary, because it's going to have to wind its way through the courts again, like it always does.
And it's going to ruin some careers and some lives.
Yes, it will.
Let me give you some quotes from the Washington Post here, right? So Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell wrote on social media, he's the spokesman for the DOD. It's criticizing Charlie Kirk or mocking Turning Point USA is a violation of the oath. It's conduct unbecoming. It's a betrayal of the Americans they've sworn to protect and dangerously incompatible with military service. Those in our ranks who rejoice at an act of domestic terrorism are unfit to serve the American people. He also, by the way, so Hegseth laughed about the attack on Paul Pelosi.
Yeah, he did.
Asked about this, Parnell, the spokesman, said, "The situation isn't the same. An American was assassinated. We will not tolerate military or civilian personnel who celebrate or mock the assassination of a fellow American." I got to say, Paul Pelosi came close to being assassinated.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, the guy went and beat the shit out of him with a hammer.
Yeah.
He's an old dude.
Yeah.
So, I mean, talk about sophistry, right? I mean,
I'll say.
So, yeah, 158 non-uniformed personnel have been investigated as of September 30th, including 27 civilian, Defense Department civilians. 2 have been removed from employment.
Jeez.
I mean, this is not, this is really, really crazy. So under Article 8 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, a serviceman or servicewoman can be prosecuted for contemptuous words against their military or civilian leaders or against elected officials, but not against, private citizens like Charlie Kirk. This is a form of madness. And I guess I'm laughing because I know the answer already.
So ridiculous.
Would it be too much to expect some Democrat to stand up and say, enough already with the Charlie Kirk bullshit?
No Democrat in either the House or the Senate or any Democratic governors, not a single one has the balls to do that. Not a single one.
That's what I thought.
No.
Fucking insane.
Listen, I'm so sorry that this happened to Charlie Kirk. This is
Me
a
too.
terrible, terrible thing. It shouldn't have happened to anybody.
100%.
The guy has little kids at home. No one should be killed for their beliefs.
Yeah.
But he's just a guy. He's not a god. He's not the president who saved the nation. Let's move on.
No, he's not. And then we should talk about Charlie Kirk's statues. So one day after Charlie Kirk died, more than a dozen House Republicans sent out a letter calling for a statue of Charlie Kirk at the U.S. Capitol. A week later, Oklahoma lawmakers introduced a bill that would require every state university in Oklahoma, every single one, to put up a Charlie Kirk statue in a dedicated square or plaza. Texas State Rep Nate Schatzline called for similar legislation in that state. The New College of Florida, which I've spoken at, used to be a nice lefty school, but it's been completely taken over by Ron DeSantis and purged of progressives, announced that it is commissioning a Kirk statue and shared an AI version of what it would look like. They say they have a bunch of artists who are willing to look for it to bid on the deal. So basically, it looks like there's going to be a massive amount of Kirk statues all over the United States. So this is great. I love this quote, right? So Kirk Savage is an art historian at University of Pittsburgh, which is a very important school related to art. And he's written about public monuments. He said the only real precedent I can think of in terms of the speed of all this and the call for more statues is Abraham Lincoln, whose assassination was followed by swift calls for statues. The morning after, a formerly enslaved woman named Charlie Scott was said to have donated $5, which was a lot of money, to a monument to President Lincoln, eventually leading to Freedman's Memorial in D.C., which shows a black man leaning next to Lincoln. But anyway, this is just of all the people. I mean, of all the people, it's just amazing to me.
Rush Limbaugh has to be spinning in his grave. Where are the statues to Rush Limbaugh? That's what I'd like to know.
Well, I mean, he kind of have a good point. I mean,
I think so.
He was a lot more important than Charlie Kirk ever was.
Yes.
Although, he was a bit of a fraud.
Yeah. That episode.
He wasn't really a conservative.
He was not conservative. That episode of Family Guy where they mock him and he says that it was all an act was actually true.
Was all an act.
Yeah.
Well, here, someone who knew him very well told me that basically it was just a grift. Basically, he had learned, he had basically sussed out in the 80s that was the direction of talk radio, to go conservative. And he's just basically, there's a lot of people like that in politics who don't believe a fucking word that they say. I don't know. I mean, I just don't experience politics that way, John. I mean, for me, it's like, I believe what I believe. I can't imagine it, being like a movie actor, like going out and saying like these lines that I don't believe. I mean, it would just be depressing to me. I'd rather just do something else. I mean, I'll stock shelves at a supermarket. I just couldn't. And I'm not morally looking down on someone who does that, but I don't get it. I don't get the psychology of someone who would, stridently day after day after day express opinions about, the way the world ought to be that you actually don't believe.
What kind of legacy do you leave when you do something like that?
And just to make money.
just to make money. Like what a cheap grift.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you're really selling your soul for like, there's not enough money. There just isn't.
And the books, it's not just the radio show. The books that were ghost written for him that he put his name on every time there was a national issue, every time there was a presidential election, he would have one of his ghostwriters gin up a quick book and make more and more money on that. It was very cynical, very, very cynical.
John, you got a personal request. This is a very personal request from Sir Bikes a lot. Thanks for the donation, Sir Bikes. Please tell Joe Rogan that tonight you're going on, yeah?
Yeah.
And other newbies to Texas to drive 70 miles an hour on the ramp to the freeway. I live in San Antonio, and I'm tired of newbies driving 45 onto the freeway.
You know what? Done. I love 70 mile an hour speed limits. They're 80 miles an hour in Montana, parts of North Dakota. I love it. I once got caught going 80 in a 25 outside of Sturgis, South Dakota. This is like 5 years ago. 80 in a 25. The cop could not apologize enough for stopping.
Really? Why?
He's like, because if it was 60, I'd say, buddy, just slow down. But 80, it stays in the radar gun in the memory, and somebody could call me on it. And I'm so sorry, sir. I'm going to have to write you a ticket. And I'm like, wow. I'm so sorry. 80 miles an hour in a 25. I didn't realize it was a 25. I had just come off the highway.
Oh, shit.
He could not apologize enough. So I just went in to the courthouse in Sturgis the next day and I paid the fine. It was $225.
You got off easy.
I sure did. I mean,
I don't know if this is still true, but my old roommate, Chris, was arrested for driving 20 over the speed limit in North Carolina. They told him that they had to arrest him under North Carolina law. In the South, the wiggle room is really like 4 miles an hour over the speed limit, right?
Yeah.
In up north, it's definitely 12 is the magic number. Cops will tell you 13. Keep it at 12. You'll be okay. 13.
I always keep it at 9.
And I feel like 10 is exactly the number, especially if you look at the ticket, right? Because it's increments of 1 to 5, 6 to 10. So if you're exactly at 10, you're probably not going to get pulled over at all. But my worst ticket, John, and I'm not bragging here. I was 16 years old. I was late to school. So I was going, and I had a great car. And I got pulled over going 115 in the school zone in front of my school. And there were like 3 cops pulled me over. The principal saw me. I walked and I was on my 3rd late and I was going to be suspended. I walked into the principal's office and he goes, "This one's a freebie. I saw you. I know right from my window." I had to pay. This was 1979. I had to pay $465. It was a fuck shit ton of money.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I had the money because I worked like ridiculous jobs, but I was like a fucking bat out of hell. I mean, it was just a great car. It was had a custom V8 Corvette engine, like.
Oh my God.
Frasmataz, how did we go from 400,000 to 6 million dead? Why is Holocaust revisionism so controversial? Is it because it's highly illegal in Europe? Not to lecture anyone, but why not deny their narrative? I'm pretty convinced that at least 6.8 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust. I've read so much about it. My bookshelves are groaning with books about the Holocaust. And when you consider everyone, right? Like basically that was a plurality. When you consider all the priests, the resistance members, the Soviet soldiers, the gays, the handicapped, the mentally ill, you're really close to 25 million people. I'm sorry.
Well, just in Greece,
just do Holocaust revisionism.
Just Greek Jews, and Greece was one of the small countries. That was 200,000 right there.
I mean, the Germans kept exquisite records. For the time, and we captured a lot of them. The Soviets have those records. You can go look at those records in the Russian archives. it's really, and there's a book called KL, which is I would recommend for anybody who's tempted by Holocaust revisionism, that just sort of details in exquisite grinding detail every mass killing at every camp, every pit, everything. And you'll the numbers are actually a little low,
That wouldn't surprise me. That wouldn't surprise me. And even in Rhodes, the island where my grandparents come from, and I'm sorry if I'm wasting time, it wasn't just the Jews. I mean, certainly they rounded up all of the Rhodian Jews, 2,000 Rhodian Jews, and 14 survived the war. But even my cousin Mike, my dad's first cousin, was shot right through the stomach by a Nazi officer, only because he wasn't moving quickly enough getting the Nazi a glass of water.
Yeah,
so
they were like that.
They wiped everybody.
And not to mention like the reprisals where they keep civilians or they have a list of civilians. And if a German soldier was killed in France, the rule was they would kill 50 local civilians for every German soldier killed, 100 for every officer. F. Husso says, Antifa is equivalent to a violent flash mob dance action. There's no structure or organization. It's a Morpheus and an idea. Correct.
Yeah. That's right.
That is exactly correct. And thanks for the donation. The Kirk stories that are interesting, says Real, don't get discussed. The assassin's family don't think he's guilty, saying the text messages are fake. FBI hiding video evidence that goes against their story. I don't know about that. I mean, it certainly looks right now like the government has their case. Let's see. Before July 13th, Razmataz says CNN decided not to air Trump rallies. That day they had so many cameras on him and in HD. I don't know. Please educate Rogan on the difference between liberals and leftists. Ooh, I like that.
Wow, that's a good one.
The right always conflate them, blaming the left for lib nonsense. True. That can't be done enough.
Yeah.
Let's talk about deportations, John. I mean, we're running low on time. I don't want to not talk about this because I think it's an important issue. So obviously we're not going to get. So the polls basically show, this is super interesting to me, this is the New York Times Siena College poll, finds 54% of voters are in favor of deporting undocumented people from the United States. But 53% think that the process isn't fair. Ensnaring American citizens. Obviously, no one's going to say that that's fair. Right. Parents of American children and vendors who are, working hard and peacefully in places like Chicago and Washington, D.C. So I love this story, John, because it really kind of goes to something that we don't talk about much in our politics. People they like a policy, but how you enforce that policy matters. And
Amen.
And so if they go ahead.
Sorry. I'm biased. I'm biased because many members of my family came to this country as illegal immigrants, what are being called illegal immigrants. All they wanted to do was work. They were very happy to pay taxes. All they wanted to do was to make money and send it back to their families. They were starving back in Greece during and before the Second World War. So I feel kind of a kinship to a lot of people. Now, I don't want Venezuelan rapists and murderers walking the streets any more than anybody else does. But this wholesale deportation of people who are just easy to grab off the street, or people who have green cards, valid green cards, and are snatched coming out of a courthouse or out of an immigration office, that's not what the American people wanted.
Or targeting people specifically because, for example, they're pro-Gaza or pro-Palestinian.
Exactly.
So I think, I think that's going to be like, a takeaway when we finally get a presidential historian who does a good job on the Trump administration's, they're going to, I think they're going to come back and say, like, Trump was on to a lot, in terms of, like, domestic priorities over foreign adventurism. Most Americans were behind that. The idea of open borders, most Americans were against that because open borders are by definition stupid. And I know that's a right-wing talking point, open borders, but they were open. I mean, it's true. They're right. And so, like, but how you decide to enforce a law or a rule, it's to the crux of it, right? So imagine if they'd gone about this with finesse and, like, no ICE goons all wrapped up in masks and stuff, but like they start with, like, the scumbags, criminals, in the worst felons in our prisons, right? Yeah. Get rid of those fuckers. Who cares? We don't need them here. Why are we paying for their imprisonment? Send them home. If their home countries don't want to imprison them, whatever. That's neither here nor there. It's like, and then just sort of work through people who are perhaps accused of heinous crimes, throw them out of the country, go down a list of priorities, and certainly don't even appear to be punishing people who are expressing political opinions. I think this policy would be pretty popular.
Yeah, and another thing too is there's no differentiation anymore between sort of the approved immigrants and the unapproved. Like, for example, Cubans used to be special people.
Oh, right.
Any Cuban, welcome to America. Did you see day before yesterday that the head of Cubans for Trump was grabbed and is being deported?
That's fucking hilarious to me. Yeah, Cubans were a special class.
Yeah.
Look at the Mario boat lift, right? Exactly. I mean, they were illegal immigrants, all of them. And we took them in. Yeah, we had to put them in. They were in those camps for a little while, but not for long.
No.
And they were, they got great benefits. We should wrap things up, but it's always a pleasure. Congratulations, honestly, to the Trump administration. I hope you keep your eye on the ball.
Seriously.
And keep this going.
This could be huge.
Yeah, and it's into the timing is really interesting, right at the second anniversary of the October 7th attacks. Anyway, praying for the people of Palestine. Hope that things work out there. We will be back tomorrow, 9:00 a.m. Eastern time. Tonight, John's on the Joe Rogan show. What time is that?
Going on at 1 to 4. They usually release them the next day. They told me that that's probably what they're going to do. It should be out tomorrow. I don't know,
sometime tomorrow. Well, so we will have talked here before that, so you might have more information by then.
Yeah.
We're here Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. If you feel like donating, we could really desperately use it, especially with the way YouTube is targeting us right now. Send your donation to deprogrampodcast@gmail.com, or if you're live on Rumble, you can always do it through Rumble. Thank you, everyone, and see you tomorrow, John. Have a good show. Break a leg.
Thanks, buddy. Bye-bye.